Bonjour, cette population coldoise, bonjour chers élèves, chers parents d'élèves. Merci encore une fois. Nous voici avec notre deuxième numéro du programme éducatif Les Samedis de l'école de Kolda. Un programme qui est là juste pour accompagner et orienter encore davantage les élèves durant cette pandémie de coronavirus. Nous allons vous présenter ce programme comme sujet le W Education avec notre invité, un professeur d'anglais du lycée Alpha Molo Bandé, Monsieur Bodian. Bonjour.
Bonjour, Monsieur Balde. My pleasure today to come back to this lesson that is very important, which is asking questions. When you're learning the language, it's very important to learn how to ask questions. That's very important, right? So this is what you do every day, and then this is what we are going to study today, how to ask questions in English. Okay, now, I hope you guys have had your breakfast. Unfortunately, you haven't because of Ramadan. Okay, so I'm not going to ask the Fulanis, who are the majority of the population of Kolda, whether they have had their breakfast or not. Okay, so what's the day today? Okay, thank you. Okay, today is the 22nd, okay, of May 2020. Good. Okay. So Basiru, where do you live?
I live in Dumas Plateau.
Do you live in Dumas Plateau?
Yes, I live in Dumas Plateau.
Okay. You live in Dumas Plateau, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You live in Dumas Plateau?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I can see. Very good. You've answered my questions very well.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've seen I have asked different questions. I have asked the same question but in different ways. Okay, so it means that there are different ways of asking a question. Okay, one of the ways of asking a question is by using the WH words. Okay, so we have what we call the closed questions, and we have, okay, when I said, do you live in Kolda? Okay, this is what we call a closed question. Do you live in Kolda? Okay, this is a closed question. Why do we call it a closed question? Because the answer, as you heard it a while ago, it is going to be yes or no. When you ask a closed question, the answer is going to be yes or no. So this is why we call them closed questions. There are only two possibilities. Either you say yes or you say no. Okay, two only possibilities. Okay, now when we come to open questions, I asked Basil a while ago, where do you live? When I said, where do you live? The answer can be many things, many different things. Okay, so here it is open. There are many possibilities. So, where do you live? Where do you live? Okay? So here when I ask where do you live, I am using a WH question. And a WH question, okay, is what we call an open question. The answer can be many different things. Alright? Whereas the closed question, the answer can only be yes or no. Right? So these are a few different ways. There's another way, okay, that we call intonation question. Okay, intonation questions. Okay, let me add the S. It is when I asked Basiru, do you live in Kolda? Okay, do you live in Kolda? It is when I said, you live in Kolda?
Yes.
Okay, you live in Kolda. Okay, Now, what is the difference between these? Okay, here, if you see, it is the this is the positionment of a question. Okay, you have here the auxiliary first, then the subject. So the reversal. Okay, but here we don't have the reversal. We have you live in Konda. It is just like an affirmative sentence, but we have a question at the end. Okay, it is called intonation question. Why is it called intonation question? It is here because the intonation goes up. You live in Kolda. Okay, this is how we ask this kind of questions. Okay, now when you ask this kind of question, it is most of the time because you are surprised or you want to show that you're shocked. Okay, because I expected Basiru to live in Ziguinchor, and I am surprised that he lives in Kolda, and I'm asking for him to confirm, okay, that he lives in Kolda. Okay, so these are different ways. Now we are going to come to the structure of the questions. Okay, now when you look at the structure here, when I say, do you live in Kolda, right? So here, what do we have? We have first the auxiliary plus the subject plus the main verb. Okay. Now in the open question here, when I said, where do you live? Okay, we have a WH, okay, word. We have a WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the main verb. Okay, so this is the order of the words. Oh, unfortunately. So this is the order of the word. Now, here the order is, when you have a closed question, it is going to be, you're going to have to start with an auxiliary first. With an auxiliary verb plus the subject plus the verb. Okay, and now the objects. And when you have an open question, it has to start with a WH word. Okay, WH word, one example of a WH word is where. Okay, we have many other WH words. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Okay, now let's focus on the WH words. Okay, now what? Okay, who, we have what, we have when, we have why, okay, we have which, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We have whose. Now, for every WH word, there is something that you are asking the question on. Okay, so when you're asking the question where, it is all about the place. Okay, the place. So where, it is all about the place. Now, when you say who, it is all about the person. What, it is all about the things. When, it is the time. Okay, why, it is the reason. Which, it is the choice. Whose, okay, it is the possession. And we can even add, okay, whom. It is also a person, for a person, but it is object. Okay, so these are a few WH questions that we can ask. Okay, where, it is all about the place. When you say where, you're asking a question on the place. When you say who, you're asking a question on a person. Okay, it is subject. Okay, here it is object. Then here it is subject. When you ask the question what, it is about things. when it is about the time, why it is the reason, and most of the time when you have why, and pretty much all of the time, okay, you're going to have the answer because. When you say why, because is going to come in the answer, right? And when you say which, it's all about the choice, and we're going to come back to examples. And when you say whose, it is the possession. Whom, it is a person, but it is the object. The object is what you call in French the complement, right? So this is what it is. Now, let's give examples. A few examples for all these, for a few of these open questions. Okay? Now, I said a while ago, when you ask an open question, okay, you have to use the WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. But it is not all the time true, okay? Because as we can see it in this example, we can have something that is a little bit different. But for most of the others, this is going to be true. Now let's go. When I say, my father opened the door. My father opened the door. Here, my father opened the door. When I say my father opened the door, if I have to ask the question on my father, I am going to say, who opened the door? Who opened the door? Okay, now it's different from the structure that we have here. So here it's a WH question, but we don't have question word, okay, word plus question word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. That's different here because here who is the subject. Now when you use who, okay, you're going to have to use the main verb directly. You don't have to use an auxiliary. You have to use the main verb directly. Who opened the door? Who ate this morning? Who asked me a question? Who asked me to come? Etc. Okay, so here you're going to have to use directly the main verb. But let's take what. Okay, an example with what. Okay, let's say the wind. This is W. Okay, the wind opened the door. Now, here is going to be different, right? Look at what we have here. The wind. We have the wind and we have the door, right? We're going to have two structures that are a little bit different, depending on whether we are asking the question on the subject or the object. Okay? So the subject here is the wind and the object is the door. Right? So here, if you have to ask the question on the wind, which is a thing, remember what it is for the things, right? So if we have to ask the question on the wind, okay, we're going to say, what opened the door? What opened the door? So here, once again, we're asking the question on the subject. So when we're asking the question on the subject, whether it is a thing or a person, as we have seen it with who, we are going to use directly, okay, the main verb. Now, let's move to the object. Okay, the door is the object here. If we have to ask the question on the object, it is going to be different. We are still going to use what, but the structure is going to change, right? So what, because of the door being a thing, remember we always use, okay, we use what for the things, right? So I'm going to say what. Okay, now here I'm not going to have directly the main verb, but I am going to come back to this structure, okay, which is a WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. Okay, this is what we are going to have here. Now I'm going to say what here, seeing that we are in the past, we are going to use the auxiliary, okay, that corresponds that we conjugate in the past as well, okay, before we put the main verb. So remember, always WH word plus, okay, auxiliary. So what I'm going to say was, okay, why was? It is because we have here opened, which is in the past, and here we are using the passive voice. Okay, what was? So the passive voice, it's always the auxiliary to be, okay, plus the past participle of the verb. Now here we are going to say what was, okay, now, okay, opened, okay, now what opened the door? Okay, what was the door? Okay, the door. What opened the door? Okay. Now here it is the wind. Here we are going to say what was opened, okay, by the wind, and it's going to be the door. What was opened by?
Can we consider this sentence as passive or active voice, this kind of things?
Okay. Now this is going to be a passive voice, okay, by the wind.
The wind.
Okay. What was opened by the wind? And the structure of the passive voice, it is the auxiliary to be plus the past participle. Okay. What opened the door? What was opened by the wind? It is going to be the door. So what opened the door? It is the wind. What was opened by the wind? It is going to be the door. Right? This is how it works. Now, the structure is changing here. Now, let's take another example with the other WH words. And we are going to see that we are going to come exactly back to what we have here. Right? So, let's take when. Okay? You can say, okay, COVID-19 first appeared in China. Okay, now if you have to ask the question on, okay, the place, okay, the place here which is China, we are going to say where. So remember, always use where when you're asking a question on the place. Okay, where did, okay, now why am I using here did? It is because of appeared. So appeared, it is in the past. Okay, you always have to use an auxiliary, right? Look at what we have here. WH word, auxiliary plus subject. Now WH word, where did, okay, now plus the subject, okay, COVID-19, okay, first, then appeared. Okay, then appear. Okay, thank you. Appear. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, where did COVID-19 first appear? So here we have exactly what we wrote here. Let me give another example using, okay, another WH word here. Okay, let's take the time. Okay, let's say it, referring to COVID-19, appeared in, okay, December. It appeared in December. So when you say here in December, it is the time. Okay, December is the month of the year. So it is the time. Now when you have the time, you're going to ask the question, when. When. Now, this is the structure that we're going to have. Remember, we always use WH question, okay, plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. Okay, when we're going to say again, seeing that the verb is in the past, we're going to use the auxiliary to do. Okay, when did, okay, it referring to COVID-19, okay, appear. When did it appear? When did it appear? Where did it appear? So here I forgot to write the question mark. Okay, when did it appear? Now, most of our students, they forget to use, okay, sometimes the auxiliary. And this is the biggest problem. This is the biggest challenge. So one of the challenges using the open questions, it is whether or not you're going to have to use the auxiliary or not. Okay, whether or not you're going to have to use the auxiliary. Okay, so once again, when you use what, you're going to use directly the main verb. Okay, when you use what also, it depends. You can have, it depends on whether you're asking the question on the subject or the object. So if you're asking the question on the subject, you have to use directly the main verb. Okay, and now when you're asking the question on the object, you have to use the auxiliary first before you use the verb. Okay, yeah, this is what it is. Now, so we have seen it here with when, okay, and the others why, okay, we are going to have to use this structure, meaning WH word, okay, plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. Now, we have other, okay, open questions. Okay, now we have, can I have space? I need space to write. Okay, so these are when, which, whose, okay.
So before the paper come, over there, can we call them short question or close?
Where?
Close questions.
Okay, close questions. So close question, yes, they call short answers. Short answers. Yes. They call short answers. Yes. Okay. Now, seeing that short answers are not, okay, part of the lesson, that's why I didn't come back to that. Okay. Maybe we're going to have another opportunity where we're going to talk about the short answers. Okay. But now, close question, seeing that the answer is going to be yes or no, they're going to call short answers.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Right. Do you have another one?
No. Maybe. Anyway.
Right.
Not yet.
So, more paper, and we are going to move to other, okay, open questions. Okay, how old? Okay, and there are many others in this list. Let me add how often. Okay, there are many others. Okay, we are only going to choose these ones. Now, when you ask the question how, it is all about the manner. The manner. How many, it is the number. How much, it is the price. Okay, it is for also uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns. Okay, now how long, it is for the duration. How heavy, it is for the weight. how far it is for the distance, how old it is the age, and how often it is all about the frequency. Frequency. So these are some of the different phrases you can use with how. So here, let me say it is manner. Okay, now when you ask the question how, it is for the manner. Okay, now how many it is for the numbers, we're going to come back with examples, just like I did it here. How much it is for the price. Okay, it is also for countable, okay, uncountable numbers, something that you cannot count. And here it is going to be for the opposite. It is going to be for something that is for nouns that are countable. Countable nouns, right? So here it's going to be countable nouns, and it is going to be uncountable nouns here, right? So let's take the example of the students. So when you say students, it is with the S, okay, it is the plural. So here you can use how many to ask the question. But if you take the example of water, we can't count water, we can't count the sun. Okay, then you're going to have to use how much to ask this question. How much is also for the price. If you want to ask for the price of a thing, okay, then you're going to use how much. Now, how long it is for the duration. How long is the duration? We're going to come back to that. How heavy the weight. Okay, the weight is what we call in French le poids. Okay, how far it is the distance, it's the same in French. How old, everybody knows it, okay, age. And how often it is for the frequency, okay, frequency. Now let me give a few examples, okay, of using the how questions. Okay, let's go. Now let's take the example of how. I can say, okay, we can prevent COVID-19 by wearing masks. By wearing masks. Okay, if I want to ask a question, okay, on the manner we can prevent, okay, the COVID-19, I am going to use this word, how. Okay, if I want to have this answer by wearing mask, okay, I am going to ask the question how, and the question is going to be how can we prevent COVID-19? And we are back to what we were saying here. Okay, WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. Okay, I'm going to say here, how can we prevent, okay, COVID-19? How can we prevent COVID-19? Okay, the answer is going to be by wearing mask. So here the manner to prevent, okay, COVID-19 is by wearing mask. So this is the question how, and we are back to what we were saying here. Okay, now most of the questions WH words you have to use, okay, this structure. WH word, okay, how, now here it is with the house, okay, plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the main verb. Now let me give an example of how many. And I have seen some of the students also making mistakes on this. Okay, when I say, for example, in Senegal, okay, 25 people, okay, have died from COVID-19. Okay, now if the question is on the number here, 25 people, if I say how many, the structure is going to be a little bit different from this one. So if I want to ask the question on the number, once again, it is with how many, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to say how many. Now, a little change is going to happen here. When I say how many, I'm not going to go directly to say, okay, have died. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say how many plus the subject here. Okay, how many people, how many things, how many animals. Okay, so when you use how many, you're going to use the subject first before you move to the auxiliary. Okay, this is how it happens. So I'm going to say how many people have died. Okay, from COVID-19. Okay, so there are little changes that happen here. So as you can see, okay, the subject is going to be here. How many people? You use the subject first, okay, before you use the auxiliary. But here we use, that's different. So here we use how many, the auxiliary first before the subject. So these are some differences that happen, okay, when you use a few open questions, okay. Now, using the others, you're going to see that we're going to come back, okay, to what we have here, okay. Now, let's take an example on, like.
So first, Mr.
Yes?
Boyan, can we come back to this first sentence? We can prevent COVID-19 by wearing mask. How can we prevent COVID-19? Can sometimes students have they have this confusion, I can say, because can isn't an auxiliary, I can say.
Okay.
It's a modal verb.
Yeah.
Even me too, I have maybe issues to identify this.
Yeah, okay, that's very easy. Now, it's a modal verb, but modals are auxiliaries as well.
Right.
They are auxiliaries as well. Okay. So, auxiliaries are have, okay, be, do, but also with all the modal auxiliaries. So here, with how, you have to use a modal, you have to use an auxiliary. So if you have can in the sentence that I give it to you, right? You can use can here to ask the question, because can it's a modal auxiliary. It's an auxiliary. So it plays the same role as be, have, as do, as be. Understand? So you can use that, yeah. Right?
Thank you.
This is what it is. But you cannot use the main verb, okay, here directly. Okay, you cannot say how prevent we. Okay, some of our students, they make this mistake of using the main verb, okay, to ask questions, but it is only possible in some, okay, with some questions, okay, open or closed questions, okay, open question like what, like who, okay, yeah, this is what it is. But then for the others, you guys are going to be having to use, okay, the modal auxiliaries or the other auxiliaries. So let's say auxiliaries, okay, whether they are modal or not modals. Okay. Did I answer your question?
Merci. Thank
right.
You. Thank you.
Okay, so this is now. Let me give maybe the last example. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's give how. Let's take another example of how. Okay, let's say how much. Okay, I bought this car. Okay. 20,000 CFA francs. Okay, CFA francs. Now, if you want to ask the question on 200,000 CFA francs, you're going to say how much. Okay, always remember, dear students, always remember that when you use this, you're going to have to use this structure. Okay, after the WH word or expression, phrase, okay, you're going to have to use the auxiliary, the subject, then, okay, the main verb. So how much, we're going to say, now.
Dans cette phrase, il s'agit du prix.
Yeah, so it's the price. Now, when you use But here, you're going to have to use did. Remember, you have to use an auxiliary. And in English grammar, when you don't have the auxiliary, okay, in the sentence, you have to use it with, you have to replace it with, you have to use the auxiliary to do. Okay, and you put the auxiliary to do in the same tense as the main verb here. So the main verb here, it is in the past. We are going to use the auxiliary to do in the past, right? So I bought this car 200,000 francs. How much did, now, WH word plus auxiliary plus subject. Did you? Okay, did you? Okay, now buy. Did you buy? Okay, this. What did we say? This car. Okay, this car. How much did you buy this car? So, always remember, okay, WH word or phrase. Then we have here the auxiliary, the subject, then the main verb. Okay. Now here, bought. It is a verb. Okay, which is in the past. We have to use the auxiliary to do, okay, and put it in the same tense as this before we use the subject. Okay?
Est-ce qu'on peut dire en français? Vous posez la question à savoir WH question. C'est le verbe en général. Le verbe joue un rôle principal. Parce que dans cette phrase, quand on dit I bought this car to 100,000, c'est-à-dire le verbe est au passé. Maintenant, pour poser la question, on utilise le WH question tout en regardant autrement dit le verbe. Si le verbe est au passé, on utilise l'auxiliaire do aussi au passé, plus le sujet, plus le verbe, mais on peut dire comme l'infinitif. On met le verbe à l'écrit.
Donc,
parce que là, on ne met pas le passé.
C'est l'infinitif sans tout.
Sans tout.
L'infinitif sans tout. C'est la base verbale. Okay, the verbal base. This is what it is.
Merci.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so is it clear?
Yeah, it is
right.
Clear.
So this is what it is. So we have all these, okay, ways of asking questions, and you know, there's all these structures. So it's a little bit different from one structure to another, okay, depending on whether we have a subject or an object, okay, whether we are using what, who, or how many, or how much. It may be different a little bit, but this is the main, okay, way of asking a question using the WH words, meaning you have to use the WH word plus the auxiliary plus the subject plus the verb. Okay, and we have seen all of the other ways of asking questions. So there are many different ways.
L'émission par rapport les activités pédagogiques durant la suite des programmes.
Voilà, donc je tiens tout simplement à vous remercier pour m'avoir invité. C'est pas la première fois que vous m'invitez tout simplement à vos activités, parce que je vois que vous êtes vraiment dynamique. Vous faites vraiment un très bon travail pour Kolda. Kolda peut être vraiment fier de ses enfants aujourd'hui. On doit avoir plusieurs Bassirou Baldé, on doit avoir plusieurs organisations comme TAS Art, pour tout simplement redynamiser l'enseignement tout simplement et l'art dans la région de Kolda. Donc moi je ne suis pas de Kolda, mais aujourd'hui je me sens coldois parce que je suis à ma 3e année dans la région de Kolda, au lycée Alpha Molo Baldé, et je serai tout simplement votre partenaire dans tout ce que vous m'appelez. Je vais tout simplement venir et vous donner tout simplement voilà, mon soutien. Je vous donne mon soutien par rapport à tout ce que vous êtes en train de faire. Je vous encourage. Je sais que le chemin n'est pas facile, mais c'est comme ça. Au début, c'est tout simplement difficile. Parfois, vous invitez des gens, ils n'ont pas le temps. Okay, mais tenez bon. Vous êtes en train vraiment de faire un excellent travail. Je vous encourage beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, merci M. Boyan. Le plaisir est partagé parce qu'en général, nous ne pouvions pas réussir nos activités sans pour autant la disponibilité des professeurs, des enseignants. Parce qu'en général, c'est notre programme, mais ce sont les professeurs qui montrent combien encore ils sont disponibles, déterminés pour accompagner les élèves malgré le confinement. Donc sans plus tarder, je vous dis au revoir et on se donne rendez-vous le samedi prochain avec un autre numéro, avec un autre programme comme leçon à partager avec les élèves en ligne et les élèves encore sur Facebook, sur Instagram, sur YouTube et encore une fois dans les groupes WhatsApp. Merci M. Bodian et merci encore une fois pour toutes et à tous. À la prochaine fois.